What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. All right. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing something that is very important to understand. It has everything to do with the Kabbalistic tree and how you initiate through it, and sharing some more perspective on what the initiatory system is all about. This is very important if you're someone who's getting into occult studies. Now, I'm going to be showing you and taking you through this entire walkthrough using my Kabbalistic sheet so that we can really be on the same page and so that we can understand this tree effectively. All right? If this is a video that you want to know a little bit more about, and trust me, you definitely do, then you have one thing to do, and that is simply to stay tuned. I will see you on the other side. All right, let me first start with introducing myself, just in case you don't know who I am by now. My name is Jeremiah Schwartz. I am a professional occultist. I am fully initiated in the entirety of the Kabbalistic tree. I'm studied when it comes to the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck. And I'm also studied when it comes to planetary energies in direct association with astrology. Now, with that being said, we're going right into the Kabbalistic tree. So let's really break this down so that you as the listener can understand. The Kabbalistic tree is the structure of initiation that all professional occultists and all occultists in general have to work through, has to move through, has to experience. All right? There is no one on this planet that lives that is outside of being connected from the Kabbalistic tree. In other words, this Kabbalistic tree is intertwined within our DNA as the human species. It's intertwined within our genetic code. It is a part of what we are, and it's a part of who we are, and it also reflects itself within the universe. We are not the only planet that deals with the tree of life. Now, the specific tree of life that we deal with in the form of Kabbalah, the way that we see it on our planet, that may be a little bit unique to us within our solar system. But within other solar systems and within other galaxies, they have their own versions of the tree of life with different planetary correspondences and different archetypal energies. That's how serious and this is how prominent this system of initiation is. It is not just for our species. This is a universal law. It's a universal science, metaphysical science. One of the highest level sciences, one that one can tap into. So once again, the Kabbalistic tree is based off of planetary energies, and it's based off of archetypal experiences that are connected to the major arcana on the tarot deck. The 22 major arcana is those archetypal circumstances and influences which are on the paths of the tree of life. The spheres on the tree of life are the planetary energies, and there are specific archetypal pathways that connect between those spheres. There are planetary energies directly associated with elemental energies, archetypal influences, and zodiac signs, which connect to the major arcana tarot cards. And they intertwine together in a very ordered and beautiful way, harmoniously speaking, to give you the proper culmination of spiritual evolutionary experiences so that you can evolve as a soul and a spirit. So each sphere on the Kabbalistic tree is placed in a specific location for a very intentional reason, as so are the archetypal paths. Every single archetype plays a different role and adds to your spiritual self-development in a balanced way, going from positive energy to negative energy. the positive experiences and the negative experiences. Okay? Now, as I mentioned early on in this video, every single person is a part of the Kabbalistic tree. There is no beings that exist outside of this that are living. And I'm even referring to animals, I'm referring to plants, I'm referring to bacterial life. Everything can reflect itself back to the Kabbalistic tree. Okay? So, obviously, the more you understand the Kabbalistic tree, the more you're going to understand the natural patterns of how a soul and a spirit grow on our planet, evolutionarily speaking. We're all here for one reason and one reason only. Maybe you guessed it, to evolve. This tree of life system is the literal structure and it's the order of how spiritual evolution manifests. When you hear the saying, the New World Order, that is connected to the Kabbalistic tree. Now, there are different aspects to this Kabbalistic tree which could represent different forms of order. Okay? So this is where it can get a little bit nuanced. But before we go into that, let's understand more of these basics, because I really want this video to penetrate certain people's psyches that are listening. Okay? I want you to grasp what it is that I'm talking about. And remember, this system that I'm discussing based on the Kabbalistic tree, this is the backbone to every single professional occultist and their philosophy, and in regards to what they know based on initiation. So all the occult orders that you know about that are established and well known, like the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the Knights Templars, the OTO, all of these different orders are using this Kabbalistic tree in order to understand how the soul and the spirit evolves based on the structured order of these different spheres and these archetypal pathways that connect them. Every single person's soul and spirit is inside of one of these spheres at all times. Some people have access to higher spheres on that tree, and some people don't, based on their willingness to evolve their soul and their spirit. The more you are focused on your spiritual evolution and soul evolution, which includes mental, psychological, emotional, and physical, the more likely you are going to be traveling up that Kabbalistic tree, moving up to the higher spheres. Now, if you're someone who's blocked off and you have a very strong sense of self-identity and you think you have all the answers and your mindset is completely based on only what you can see and sense physically, then you're going to have a lot of a harder time traveling higher on that Kabbalistic tree, all the way to the point where you can remain stagnant or stuck within one of the lower spheres for truly the rest of your life incarnation. You may not even figure that out or get it in this life incarnation. You may die and then reincarnate at some later date and then maybe progress and learn from your mistakes. So there are many people that are stagnant on this Kabbalistic tree, stuck in one specific sphere. Okay? Now, once again, if you're someone who's focused on spiritual self-development and you're someone who's intending to reach your highest potential while also remaining open-minded to the unknown, you're somebody who's in touch with the feminine aspects of your energetic being, your nature, which is being receptive to the unknown, letting go of attachments, surrendering to yourself, and trusting that your soul is guiding you when you're supposed to be where you are, and realizing that nothing happens for no reason, while also feeling your emotions so that you can process those energies in motion to then understand them and then use them to your benefit. Now, if you're doing this and you're applying this in your daily life, then what you're going to find is that you travel naturally up this Kabbalistic tree, sphere by sphere, through the different archetypal paths that connect the spheres, which are actually manifesting different types of experiences in your daily life. Every single one of these archetypes literally will manifest in your physical reality, which means when you pull a specific archetypal card and you start to understand what that archetype means, like what is the general meaning and influence behind this card, at the point of initiation, when you're actually traveling through that archetypal path, when your spirit actually accesses that energetic doorway, that archetype will physically manifest, and it will bring in the energies of the spheres that that archetype is connected to. So for example, if we're dealing with the archetype of the world, and we see how that connects into the sphere of Malkuth, ruled by Earth, as well as the sphere of the moon, Yesod, we are going to get energies of Yesod coming down into Malkuth, the moon energies coming down into the earth, which is feminine influence, helping you to better understand in order to travel through the archetype of the world, you are needing to embrace the feminine moon-like aspects of the self, which inherently is going to require you to self-reflect, because what does the moon do? It reflects the light of the sun, and it's a feminine energy. So it's going to cause you to self-reflect and go inside and recognize, what do I need to let go of in order to progress? And once again, that archetype of the world, which connects Yesod to Malkuth, the moon to the earth, it is that archetypal path that is ruled by Saturn and oftentimes represents death energy in the form of identity death or ego death. So we're getting the influence of a ego death while self-reflecting, which then opens the self up to more of a feminine influence to continue progressing into the unknown, which is the initiatory tree, the sphere of Yesod, moving from the sphere of Malkuth up the archetypal path of the world, entering into Yesod. This is what initiation is. This is also what is known as pathworking. And as you're dealing with that archetype of the world, in your physical reality, guess what? You're going to be in real life situations where you're going to be placed in a position where your ego is going to be challenged. Oftentimes, it may show up as a feminine energy, maybe a female, that challenges your ego and causes you to self-reflect to the point where you literally break your ego, and then you realize you can't control it and you let it go, and then that gives you the energetic boost to move through that archetypal path because you let go of your ego. Now you're more receptive to what you don't know, and now you have access to the sphere of Yesod, which is the unconscious sphere, the sphere of the moon. Now you're feeling and processing more of your emotions, and this is the foundation of your spiritual self-development. You have to understand your unconscious mind is the foundation for everything else that you're going to be adding on top of it. Okay, because if things aren't being processed through the foundation of the unconscious, then everything you're obtaining or attaching to is artificial. It has no substance. It has no roots. It has no base. So the unconscious mind needs to be clean, and it needs to be clear. And when I say clean, I don't mean pure. I mean clean as in it needs to be understood and looked into and processed to be that nice, clean foundation. All right. And that is why the sphere of Yesod is that first sphere of initiation from Malkuth. So I explain all of this just so that you can have a general yet real life, realistic, practical understanding of how this initiatory system will function and show up in someone's physical reality. This is not just an astral experience. A lot of people think that. They think this entire Kabbalistic initiation, this entire tree of life thing is some mystical astral experience that only the few psychically gifted individuals can experience. it is not just that. Now, obviously, the astral aspects of this are very significant, and the things that you experience in your dreams, or once again, in ritualistic practices that are, astral phenomena, those things are very important and they play a very significant role. And as I just said, some people are closer to that. They are more adept at the astral than they are on the physical. But guess what? There's a large portion of people, I would even go as far as saying the majority of people, are more adept with what happens in the physical than what's going on in the astral. And when you're dealing with the tree of life, and when you're dealing with the initiations that are a part of this tree of life, you are dealing with physical circumstances in your daily life. They are showing up in human beings around you. It's showing up in real life situations, your coworkers, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your social media. Literally, it's happening on all levels. It's not just, once again, an astral experience. It is just as much a physical experience as well. And this all connects back to the principle, as above, so below. So when you're getting into initiations, this is a real life initiation change that you're experiencing connected to the archetypal paths and the planetary energies connecting to those paths. So what this means is the more you understand the archetypes and the more you understand the planetary energies, the spheres that are connecting in between those archetypes, the more you can start realizing once you get into occult initiation, you can start predicting where it is that you are based on the types of situations that you're in within the present moment, because you understand the spheres and the energy that's behind them based on the planets, and you understand the archetypes based on the elements or the zodiac or whatever else is associated with the archetypal influence. And once again, you listening to this are somewhere on that tree right now. I don't know where you are. Maybe if you book a tarot card reading with me, we can go into that, because that's what I do for the tarot card readings. But regardless, you listening to this, you're somewhere on that tree. So the more you're going to be studying the Kabbalistic tree, the more you can actually start to recognize where you are on that tree. And then guess what that does for you? It allows you, once you get good at it, to predict what you're going to be expecting within the near and long-term future, because you can predict what types of archetypal and planetary energies are going to have a massive influence on your soul and your spirit and your physical body. Because as I said from the very beginning, this structure of initiation based on the Kabbalistic tree is an ordered structure. It is the order, okay? Occult orders, New World Order. Have you ever heard that word before? New World Order? This is an ordered system. It is the same order for every soul and spirit that is traveling through it. Yet there are some subjective differences, but objectively, it is the same order, the same ordered patterns that are going to manifest. So I can literally predict based on where you are on that tree, and then what's going to be taking place in the near and the long-term future, because I know the order of initiation and I know what your spirit and your soul is heading towards. So you can do this for yourself if you actually understand the Kabbalistic tree and you start picking up study of looking into it, and obviously getting yourself into practices where you're channeling or opening some of those energies, dealing with the spheres or dealing with the archetypes or dealing with entities that connect you to specific spheres or archetypes. That's what people most oftentimes do in our today's time. They're connecting with entities that are then connecting them to the different spheres and the different archetypal paths on that tree. That's why oftentimes when you deal with specific entities, whether it's angelic or demonic, your life starts changing pretty drastically. You start going through a real life spiritual quest, an initiatory journey. It's because these entities are understanding the science that I'm talking about now, and they're the ones that are initiating you through it, whether you're actually conscious of it or if you're unconscious of it. Now, just imagine how much power you can gain when you become conscious of this structure of initiation. And then you can start putting the pieces together as to why certain people rule the world. It's because they understand the order of evolution. This is the Kabbalistic tree. This is the natural order of spiritual evolution. From Malkuth to Yesod, to Hod, Netzach, Tifereth, Gavura, Chesed, down the archetype of the hermit to the center, up the crossing of the abyss over the high priestess archetype. Then you manifest into Binah, Chokmah, and then you complete the tree at Kether. These three spheres are called the supernal triad, and they are separated from the lower 7 on the tree. What separates them is the crossing of the abyss. You are somewhere on this Kabbalistic tree already. If you're someone who's already an adept when it comes to spirituality, there is a highly likelihood that you're already in the supernal triad. Now, if you're someone who's spiritual, but you wouldn't consider yourself an adept, like someone who's very skilled or has been doing this for quite some time, you are most likely somewhere in these lower spheres, okay? Somewhere in the lower 7. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're all born into Malkuth, and throughout our growth as we age, we are evolving up this tree. Some of us are doing this faster than others, but we're all doing this together. Now, there are clearly different archetypal paths that someone can access within these different spheres, and this is where it can get a little bit subjective because your soul and your spirit will pull on specific archetypal paths depending on what it feels is necessary for your development at that specific time. So with Malkuth connecting into the archetype of judgment, as well as the archetype, the archetype, of judgment, and then the archetype of the moon, you may pull on the archetype of judgment in the sphere of Malkuth, or you may wait until you initiate yourself into the sphere of Hod and then pull on the archetype of judgment. It just depends, and it's, once again, subjective to your own self-development. But ultimately, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be pulling on that archetype eventually. All right? And that is going to manifest itself into your physical reality while also giving you a great opportunity for internal transformation based on the influence of that archetypal path. So in order to practically understand what I'm saying right now, you have to know what this archetype means. Have you ever studied the tarot card judgment? Have you ever studied the planetary energies which connect this archetype together? Do you know about the planetary energies of Earth? Most of us do because we exist on this planet, but some of us are still naive to it. Do you know about the planetary energies of Mercury? Do you have any idea what Mercury represents astrologically? Because this is what you can expect, a culmination of Earth and Mercury, as well as the hint of the judgment archetype when you're on this pathway, and your physical reality will reflect this. It will actually show this manifesting. And when you're a professional occultist, you understand this knowledge and you see it actively playing out, and you can predict what's going to happen next, because the next order of initiation is from, let's say we're in the sphere of Hod, the next order of initiation is into the sphere of Netzach. So if someone's in the present moment in the sphere of Hod, I can guarantee you in your near future, maybe 2 to 8 months in the future, they're going to be moving to Netzach, the sphere of Venus. Now, what's going to happen when they move into that sphere? They're going to have to travel across that archetypal path that connects it. In this case, this is the archetype of the Tower. So what does that mean? If I know what the Tower card represents, then I can tell the person this is an experience that they're going to be going through, and they can expect this to manifest when they get to their near future. So with my knowledge of the archetype of the Tower, and as well of the sphere of Netzach, I now know exactly what this person is going to be going through in their near future, because I understand the Kabbalistic tree and how you go through these levels of initiation. All right? So obviously, all this information that I'm sharing is advanced information. This is in-depth information, but it clearly goes a lot deeper than this. It's much more nuanced than this because we're not even looking at the elemental energies. We're not looking at the zodiacs yet. We're not looking at the Hebrew letters and what those represents, and then the numerology connected to it. So although this is a general nutshell of what the Kabbalistic tree is and how you travel through it from an initiatory stance, this is just very general, okay? As I said, this video is intended to give you a very practical understanding of what this tree represents. Very practical, so that you can see it in your own life, so that you can see it in others' lives around you, and so that you can start putting some of the puzzle pieces together, realizing that movies and TV shows and music that you listen to, the producers of all these different forms of entertainment are extremely studied and aware of this Kabbalistic tree to the point that they're putting scenery, they're putting rituals, they're putting lyrics and harmonic tones into these industries that are accessing different pathways in different spheres on this tree of life to produce physical manifestations in your life as the observer or as the listener. All right, this is how powerful this tree of life is. You can use the tarot deck, you can use symbolism, you can use imagery, you can use vibrational patterns and words and mantras to open up doors to this Kabbalistic tree, to open up spheres and archetypal energies that actually manifest into physical reality. You know, these people that know this technology are not using this for no reason within the entertainment industry. It has a purpose and it does manifest. So obviously, the more you understand this yourself, the more you can better navigate when it comes to your own spiritual self-development. And if you get really good at it, you can gain a lot of power from this. You can trigger a lot of transformation into other people's lives around you and kind of play life like it's a game of chess. I mean, you know, someone gives you a hard time, well, then you unload the archetype of the tower on them or the archetype of the hangman. And next thing you know, they're going through those experiences. You're working with a business partner. You want your deal to go through and you want to, you know, be a good partner with this person. You open up the energies of the Wheel of Fortune. And you start pulling on the energy of the sphere of Netzach and the sphere of Chesed, Jupiter and Venus. That's going to pull in those energies of abundance, things that are going to be beneficial for financial gain. All right, so these are just little examples of different Kabbalistic energies that you can tap into in order to manifest strategic energies into your life. But this is primarily for people that are fully initiated within this Kabbalistic tree, because the beginning stages is initiation, right? The beginning stages is learning that you are a soul and a spirit traveling through this tree, going through the different spheres, going through the different archetypes, and learning more about who you are and what you are, getting closer in touch with your soul, and ultimately uncovering the knowledge of your purpose, which is the reason why you've incarnated. This is the first thing that is most important for anyone dealing with spiritual initiation, self-development. Then once you've mastered that, once you've achieved the purpose, now you can start manipulating the tree of life. You can start being an active player and moving pieces on that chessboard to your advantage. This is what the professional occultists do, okay? Primarily what people on the negative polarity are doing. And that kind of goes into our secondary topic. So I've spoke about this before on my YouTube channel about the differences of the Kabbalistic tree, how you have the front side, which is the Sephiroth, the tree of life, and then there is a back side, which is the Qliphoth, the tree of death. Okay, I have an entire playlist series on my YouTube channel that goes into very much depth about the deep nuances of this Kabbalistic tree. And I've noticed that as I've broken it down in that way, and I'm sure a lot of you listening have seen those videos, it can get a little bit confusing. Okay, I recognize that most people don't have the mental ability to really integrate that energy or make practical sense of it. So I've made it a lot more practical in the way that I now perceive the tree and the way that I work with it, just to eliminate a lot of unnecessary confusion. So I just want you to know as a listener that I'm very conscious that this may seem like it's a little bit contradictory to what I've said in my previous videos or other videos that I have on that playlist section that breaks down the Kabbalistic tree. And I want you to understand that all that information that I've talked about is real information. It exists. Okay, it's information that if you do grasp and you understand, you can run with it and use it to your advantage. But I found that this new way of explaining the tree is so much more simple. It's much more practical, and it saves me at the end of the day a lot of time and energy, and it's still absolutely authentic. So this is the new way that I break down the Kabbalistic tree, from the Sephiroth to the Qliphoth, or the front side to the back side. All right, so once again, if you're new and you don't really understand what I'm talking about yet, this is the tree of life, okay? This is the positive polarity of this initiatory structure that all of us are born within. But guess what? When it comes to planetary spheres like Earth, there are dual polarities. There is a positive polarity and there is a negative polarity. And this has to exist in order for spiritual progress to maintain itself. So what is the negative polarity of the tree of life? It is the tree of death. Okay, this is what's known as the Qliphoth. The Qliphoth in comparison with the Sephiroth. The Sephiroth being the positive, the Qliphoth being the negative. Ultimately, they are both the same tree. This is a universal tree at the end of the day, but there are two polarities to this universal tree. Just like what we see in physical manifestation, there are males and there are females. This is a manifestation of polarity. When it comes to the Kabbalistic tree, there is no difference. It's the same tree. Men and women are both humans. We both are souls and spirits, yet we chose to incarnate with a specific polarity in regards to gender. The Kabbalistic tree has a positive polarity and it has a negative polarity. All of us are born within the tree of life in regards to the positive polarity. You know, obviously when you're a little child and you're born into reality, it's not like you have intentions of world domination or intentions of taking over the planet. Everyone's born into the tree of life within Malkuth, and as the soul evolves, it travels through this tree. Now, there are certain souls that travel through this front side of the tree and then make a decision that they are not of the positive polarity in regards to how they express their soul, but rather they express their souls in a negative way. This is the negative polarity. This is the path of the black magician. So what this does for these types of souls is it opens up the doorway of death, which is the 11th hidden sphere in the abyss, and it brings those souls through that gateway from the front side of the tree and then enters them into the back side of the tree. All right, so if you can imagine this tree of life that you're seeing right here, just simply imagine that there is a reverse aspect to this that completely reflects the front side, except the only difference is everything is in its negative projection. It's in a negative, it's a negative influence rather than being a positive influence. Now, at the end of the day, this doesn't mean negative in the sense of these are, a bunch of Debbie Downers and these are people that hate life and hate everything. Negative in the sense of absorbing rather than being radiant. Negative in the sense of going against the grain rather than going with the flow, so to speak, at times, okay, at times. Negative in the sense of seeing the self as the source rather than seeing the source in others. Not saying that people in the negative polarity can't perceive these things, but just saying that they spend most of their time and energy looking inwards towards the self and serving the self as the source than they would serving others as the source. in comparison to the positive polarity who serves others as the source. Once again, we have the traditional story of Jesus Christ who died on the cross for everyone else's sins. Then we have the Antichrist who shows up to dominate the planet and usher in the New World Order with the mark of the beast, serving the self. All right, this is just the examples of the positive versus the negative polarity. And as I said, there are specific souls on our planet that choose to go into the negative polarized aspect of this tree of life. And what happens is they enter in through that 11th sphere of death energy, which is the sphere of death, which represents knowledge. This is the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. It is the sphere of knowledge. And they enter in through this door through death energy and sexual energy. Okay, so there's some sort of sexual energy which connects into the moon, which oftentimes can be related to the Mars energy of destruction and anger or aggression. And death energy, it's this little combination of these spheres that then enters someone in, and then they pop out on the other side, starting at the bottom of the tree again, but on the other side of the tree. So they start at the sphere of Malkuth, except the negative aspect of Malkuth, which is the sphere of Nama. And then this becomes a completely different initiatory structure that is literally this very similar as the first initiatory structure, which is the tree of life, except now they're starting over, initiating themselves through the negative polarity, going through the rituals and the steps, the mindset and the programming in order to properly serve themselves more and more as they travel up this new Qlippothic tree. So they are training themselves on a soul level and on a physical, mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual level to now be negative beings, to be service to self-oriented beings, beings that project the influence of that negative polarity, which is an adversarial energy. These are the beings that question your beliefs. These are the beings that challenge your gods. These are the beings that will tell you where your weaknesses are and will press on your triggers, whether you like it or not. This is the level of evolution that the negative polarity brings to this planet. It is a resistor, it's an adversary, it's a catalyst bringer, but obviously with catalyst, resistance, and adversary, that's where you have an opportunity to grow the most. So when you're existing on a planet that has both positive and negative beings, there is much more potential for spiritual self-development and spiritual evolutionary progression. That's why both polarities exist, and that's why there is no such thing as evil. Everything plays its role. Do you think the source of all creation would make a mistake and create an evil being because it was an accident or something got out of hand? The source is much more divinely intelligent than that. Nothing is by mistake. Everything has a divine purpose behind it. All things are connected to the same source of energy, no matter how corrupt or how evil you think those things are. Everything can be transmuted into a lesson and ultimately potential. This is what it means to truly have a liberated state of mind. How many people do you know, you listening to this right now, perceive reality from this perspective? I already know the answer to the question. Not many whatsoever. It's because most people have not achieved this state of consciousness. Most people are still viewing reality whilst being trapped within the confinement of our matrix. So they view reality in dualistic ways. It's me versus them. We are against them. Once again, in the higher densities, this duality concept does not exist. So when you've achieved that consciousness, you now realize everything plays its role. And when you understand that, you can focus on your personal evolution much more effectively and appreciate the present moments much more, okay? So once you enter into the backside of the tree, you are now starting at the bottom of the clip-off, and you go through the exact same initiatory structure that you would on the front side, except the only difference is you're now going through it on the back. And these archetypes, rather than being the traditional archetypal energies that are connected with the tarot card, it is not only giving you those energies, but it's giving you the negative aspect of those energies. So when you're initiating through the clip-off, this level of initiation is much more challenging and much harder for someone to go through than what you get on the front side. So the black magicians of our planet, who are fully initiated magicians, are truly some of the most powerful, wise, and understanding people on the planet that exist, because of the level of initiation that we have to go through in order to be considered professional black magicians or fully initiated black magicians. Okay, we've had to go through some of the most pain and suffering through our initiatory journey because we're dealing with the negative aspects of the archetypal and planetary influences rather than the front side, which gives you more of a positive influence. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean if you're, on the front side, all you're getting is positive energy. We're balanced creatures. We're balanced beings. We're always going to have a balance of both positive and negative. But once again, depending on how your soul is expressing yourself, it is going to give you, depending on the positive or negative polarity, it's going to give you a more in alignment evolutionary experience depending on your polarity. So with the clipothic paths, these are traditionally known as the paths of the tunnels of Set. Rather than the 22 paths, we call them the tunnels of Set. We call these the spheres of the clip-off, and these are the tunnels of Set. And if you want to understand the tunnels of Set, you can buy some different different types of occult literature. One of the books is The Night Side of Eden, that goes into very much depth explaining what these tunnels of Set have within them. And the reason why Kenneth Grant knows that information is because he was initiating himself through the clip-off, and he was experimenting and documenting down the energies, the negative aspect of these archetypal paths. And I've done the same thing, and I've experienced them in my physical life. They are real. I've experienced the ones on the front and on the backside, so I know the difference, and they are different. And once again, not everyone goes into the clip-off. So you have to learn from specific types of people that are real black magicians if you're wanting to learn about the negative side of the tree. If you're someone who's on the positive polarity, going into the clip-off is absolutely not recommended for you, because in the clip-othic tree, you are going to be pulled into wanting to be a black magician. I don't care who you think you are, that's what's going to happen. But even when you're on the front side of this tree, you're still dealing with the energies of the clip-off, because the energies of the clip-off can leak through the 11th sphere of the abyss, and that's how they bring balance from the positive aspects of the Sephiroth, and that's how negative energies come through and balance out the positive. But once again, when you're getting into the clip-off, you're going directly into the abyss, dealing with the root of some of these negative energies. And you are becoming a negative entity through that level of alchemical transformation and initiation. So obviously, the more negatively polarized you become, the more your energy field absorbs and pulls inwards, similar to a black hole, the more you can withstand those negative energies without being harmed by them or without being affected by them in an unbeneficial way, and you can actually turn them into your power. Once again, this is why black magicians literally control our planet as we speak. All right? So truly, once again, this was the breakdown I wanted to give. This is extremely general. It goes into much more depth. If you want to go deeper with this information, I highly recommend you join my Patreon, which is the first link in the YouTube description. But Once again, that was my intention to really give you a practical and general awareness of what this Kabbalistic tree represents. I feel like I haven't made a video like this in a long time, and this really just simplifies this entire tree so that you can understand what it's all about and what everyone is being influenced by on our planet. All right? If this is information that you want to know more about, drop down in the comment section and I will absolutely make more content covering these details of this Kabbalistic tree. Once again, the more advanced information for those of you that are really serious about your practice is absolutely going to be on the Patreon. But definitely let me know in the comment section what kind of, if this is content that you're interested in, because I would love to make more on this subject, especially if there's a demand for it. With that being said, this is going to wrap it up. If you enjoyed this video, also hit the thumbs up button. Come down here and hit the notification bell because I post videos as often as I can, and clearly with content like this, you do not want to be missing out, okay? Come down here and subscribe if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, because by subscribing, you are further linking into the content. There really is an energetic principle that goes behind that, and you're getting more value from what it is that I'm teaching once you actually subscribe to the channel. So go ahead and do that. If not, whatever, okay? Now, you have my full permission to copy and paste this link and send it out to anybody, family, friends, social media platforms, you name it, you have my full permission. Let's spread this content like a wildfire. It's going to help me increase my empire, and that's exactly what I've been doing, okay? Now, I'm going to take your awareness to the most important link within the entirety of the YouTube description. It's the first link at the very top. You can't miss it. This is where you can join the Patreon. On the Patreon, I have an entire vault of exclusive occult content. None of this content is on my public YouTube channel, and that is for many intentional reasons, okay? At this point, what's on my Patreon is literally like a secondary YouTube channel, except everything on there, once again, is more advanced and more personal than what you're getting on my public channel. As you move into tier 2, you're gaining access to an entire magic training course, which I feel like would be extremely valuable, especially if you're a beginner occultist and you're looking for a structured format to follow to start developing your psychic capabilities. Then as you move into tier 3, this is the most popular tier of the Patreon, and that alone speaks for itself. This is what's known as the Universe-B Vampire Service. So what this is a service that I perform on the 29th of every single month that has one, that is designed to completely transform your energetic structure to be more so Universe-B dominant. What that means is more so negatively polarized, service to self-oriented. What this does is this gives these individuals an ability to be more so receptive to their unconscious and subconscious mind, which is feminine in nature. It gives them a psychic capability to pull in energy from dark energy and chaos within the environment to transform into their own power and evolutionary potential. And it gives these individuals an ability to exist within the darker energy areas and locations of our multiverse itself without inherently getting harmed by them, but rather developing knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and potential power from them instead. What I discussed on this video complements that, okay? So once again, if this is something you want to take advantage of, definitely look into it. That's tier number 3 of the Patreon. Check it out. Now, as you move into tier number 4, this is the new top tier of the Patreon. This gives you access to everything from the previous tiers, including the Vampire Service, and you get additional content. You get psychic predictions on a monthly basis where I pull a specific tarot card and an oracle card from my own deck that I've created, and it's designed to give you the initiatory energies that you can expect based on your zodiac sign going into every new month. So this is to help you navigate every single month. Now, if this is something you want to take advantage of, once again, that's tier number 4 of the Patreon, and we're going to leave it there. Now, I'm going to give a special shout out to everyone who's a Patreon member specifically for taking your knowledge, your practices, and your studies to that other side. Big shout out to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in the second link below, you can't miss it. This is where you can book a very unique tarot card reading from me. This is a tarot card reading that I promise you have never received before. The reason why is because I understand the Kabbalistic tree way more than the average person. So what I can do is I can literally pinpoint exactly where you are on that tree. I can tell you what you're feeling, experiencing, and going through in the present moment, and then what to expect moving into your near and your long-term future, all based on your positioning on that Kabbalistic tree. Okay? I've done well over 1,000 readings. I do a reading every single day. I've been doing this for over a year, and I get tons of valuable feedback. If this is something you want to take advantage of, book your reading, second link below. Now, also within that same second link below, you have an option to book a one-on-one call with me, okay? This is for people that have personal questions that relate back to their own journeys. If you want to talk to somebody like myself and get a different perspective, potentially, on what it is that you're going through and what you're experiencing, then I would highly recommend booking a one-on-one call. Now, I also have options of mentorship. I have a 6-week mentorship, and I have a 3-month mentorship. This is amazing for people that are getting into occult initiation specifically. Now, it can be used for other things too, just like checking in and doing, calls to go over what you're experiencing. But if you're getting into initiation, this is an amazing opportunity to book a mentorship with me. All right. So once again, all this information, all these services are found in that second link below. Check it out. Now, as we move into the third link below, this is where you can become a YouTube member. As you become a YouTube member, you're getting access to many different types of benefits, but most importantly, what you're getting access to is the Psychic Warfare Emoji Program. So what this is this is a sequence of emojis that I've designed myself that are based on real occult principles, and you can use them in a specific configuration, link in the name of a target, hit enter, and it will actually cause psychic effects to the target of your choice. This is the most simple form of utilizing psychic warfare through the internet platform. And there are over 2,000 posts where individuals have already used it. And there are people right now in this moment who are taking advantage of it. If this is something that you want to use for yourself, you can definitely do so. You go to that third link below, you click it, join, become a YouTube member, and then you'll have access. All right? With that being said, this is going to wrap it up. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you so very much. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or night, wherever you are. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.